The title of today's episode might seem odd, but it's only going to be that way for a few minutes. On the 3rd of April 2022, Miami police received a chilling phone call from a woman named Courtney Clenny. Her boyfriend, Christian Toby Obumseli, was dying in her arms and she urgently needed help. When the police arrived, they found Toby with a brutal stab wound to the chest, and the apartment was covered in pools of blood. Now here's where things get complicated. Courtney was a popular Onlyfans model, and she and Toby had been in a deeply passionate but difficult relationship. Behind closed doors, they had a history of violent fights. This time, Toby was barely clinging to life, and Courtney claimed she had nothing to do with it. However, the police were not convinced, and they brought Courtney in for questioning.
My apologies for being absolutely covered in blood.
Listen, you don't have to apologize, okay? I completely understand. Alright? Things happen, and you can't control it.
First of all, as they started interrogating her, the detectives informed Courtney about Toby's condition. He was alive, but hospitalized. They were cautious not to sound accusatory since they couldn't predict her reaction. The detectives hoped to make her feel comfortable enough to open up. They started digging into the details of Courtney and Toby's relationship and what led to the unfortunate incident. Courtney confessed that they had broken up, but later came back, leading to a heated argument that got out of hand. She admits to reacting, but not overreacting. The detectives also asked about their professions and future plans, like moving into a new home and adopting a furry companion. Even though Courtney was in a vulnerable state, the detectives didn't lose sight of their goal. Yes, to solve the crime. After all, Courtney was the prime suspect in the case. The only defense she had given was that things spiraled out of control during the argument. The detectives were hoping that by letting her go through their past and talking about their future plans together, Courtney would drop her guard and confess. Courtney also revealed that Toby had gone to his mother's place on his bike while she was doing laundry. Upon his return, Toby had brought a Subway sandwich with him. Courtney had asked him to share his location with her, and Toby obliged. They continued their conversation. As the investigation continued, the detectives discovered that the argument was more than just a lover's spat. Toby had apparently been seeing someone else, which had driven Courtney to the brink. She had allegedly stabbed Toby out of a fit of rage. Meanwhile, Courtney Clenny discusses Toby's behavior in between. Courtney tries to keep her emotions in check, but her body trembles as she reveals the truth about Toby's violent behavior. She recounts the time he had her pinned against the wall and choked her twice before. Fear had been her constant companion during those incidents. As they dig deeper, Courtney reveals that Toby had shown aggression before, and she had resorted to grabbing a knife in self-defense. She admits to drawing it only to protect herself. The detectives lean in, their eyes fixed on Courtney, as she explains how Toby had been at the edge of the sofa, and she was by the fridge when she threw the knife. The blade found its mark, and Toby began to bleed out. However, Courtney insists that she acted only in self-defense. The detectives look over the new details, determined to uncover the truth. To them, Courtney's story seems quite legit, but they need to know more. They ask her to recount the events that led to the argument, and she reveals that they had broken up but got back together. They had been discussing moving into a new house and getting a new dog. The detectives know they have to handle this carefully with Courtney. She's vulnerable, but they have a job to do. They remain focused on solving the crime, and their questions continue. They hope to squeeze out more information to find any cracks in Courtney's story. When asked if she had any previous incidents with Toby, Courtney's response was vague. She mentioned they shouldn't be together, and that there was an incident in Dallas that she had reported about a year ago. The detectives dug deeper and uncovered another incident in Las Vegas less than a year ago, where the police had been called to their apartment after a loud argument. Courtney explained that she had called the police because she was worried they might damage the room. But when the police arrived, they discovered that Courtney had attacked Toby by throwing a glass at his head. She was held in jail for 12 hours but released after Toby refused to press charges. The detective's suspicion was growing after knowing about this, but they still needed more evidence. They pressed Courtney for details of the day of the attack. She told them she was doing laundry when Toby left for his mother's house. When he returned with a Subway sandwich, she asked him to share his location with her. He agreed, and they continued their conversation. But something had gone wrong, and the argument had escalated into a physical fight, with Courtney being accused of stabbing Toby. Now as the interrogation continued, Courtney's story began to break. The police had captured an exchange between the couple on their body cams the day before the attack, which contradicted Courtney's version of the events. The detectives were closing in on her, and they knew it was only a matter of time before she would have to confess to what she had done.
You call.
I didn't. Nobody.
I call. You call.
What?
Okay.
What's going on,
man? Hold on, man. Let him talk.
Okay.
Let him talk.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The front desk personnel, she informed us that Miss Courtney, her boyfriend, was trying to get into the elevator. and she had her hand out like this, and she was like, "Oh no, don't come inside the elevator."
Okay.
So we asked her, I said, "Do you want him to leave the property?" She said no, she don't want him to.
I did not say that. I said yes.
Here you can see that personnel at the front desk informed them that Miss Courtney was trying to get into the elevator, and Courtney ran out, telling her not to come inside. When asked if she wanted Toby to leave the property, she said no. Courtney appeared extremely panicked in the footage and was more worried about getting a restraining order before Toby could. Building security noticed her pushing Toby out of the elevator and screaming at him, but no aggression came from him. It's starting to seem increasingly likely that Courtney's self-defense story might not be entirely true. Despite this, debunking her claims will be a challenge for the detectives. After leaving her alone for an hour and letting her change her clothes, they returned to the interrogation room with some news. They informed Courtney that Christian did not make it and had passed away. Courtney was devastated and asked for a hug, stating that she couldn't be left alone in a room by herself. She was worried that if she had hit Toby a little bit lower, he could have died. As the interrogation progressed, the detectives seemed to be convinced that Courtney's actions were in self-defense. They even reassured her that she would be allowed to go home that night, but little did they know the evidence against her was mounting. Her lawyer was able to convince the detectives of her innocence, and she was let go without any charges. As we said before, publicly available body cam videos actually shed light on Courtney's past arrests and her unflattering behavior, including being drunk in public just a few days after her release. The most crucial evidence was the secret footage found on Toby's phone. It showed Courtney violently screaming at him, using aggressive language, hitting him across the face, and even using racial slurs. This, combined with other accounts, painted Courtney as the perpetrator and led to Toby's family taking her to court. The final piece of evidence that sealed Courtney's fate was the medical examiner's report, which revealed that Toby had been stabbed. With all the evidence stacked against her, Courtney was awaiting her trial for second-degree murder. As the investigation unfolded, it came to light that Clenny had a history of violent behavior, which was apparent from 6 police calls and a surveillance video recording inside the condominium's elevator. The evidence speaks volumes about the pattern of violence, leaving no room for doubt about the suspect's intentions. When the detectives delved deeper into the case, it was revealed that Clenny's condo was managed by One Paraíso Condo, and they were held accountable for the murder. The victim's family also sued the condo management and Allied Universal Security for failing to take any action despite having prior knowledge of Clenny's violent tendencies. The family's attorney, Michael Haggards, claimed that this was a murder that the civil defendants knew was going to happen, and if they had done anything, this wouldn't have occurred. Obumseli's family is seeking justice in civil court and is demanding over $50,000 in damages from the defendants. The truth is out, and we can hope justice will be served. Now the only question left is, what do you think? How long of a sentence does she deserve? Do drop your views in the comments section below. We'll meet again in the next episode. Until then, stay tuned.